Good morning. I'm Rudy Michelson of Monsoon Communications. Welcome and thank you for joining the Dimerix Investor webinar following today's news of the US license deal with Amicus Therapeutics. Now, in the many biotech webinars we've platformed, I refrain from commentary about the company news. But in this case, let me say that in my 26 years looking after biotech companies, with the size of this deal and being Dimerix's fourth license agreement, make no mistake, this is one of the biggest commercial achievements in Australian biotech over all this time. Getting back to the running of the webinar, let me point out you can submit questions using the Q&A function and we'll get to them after the presentation. Dr. Nina Webster, CEO and Managing Director of Dimerix, is briefing us on today's news. I'll now hand over to Nina.
Thank you, Rudy. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me today as we announce some very exciting news for all our stakeholders, having just closed likely one of the largest licensing deals in Australian biotech history. It's a pleasure to present the Dimerix news to you today. My name is Dr. Nina Webster, and I am the CEO and Managing Director of Dimerix. For those of you who are not familiar with Dimerix, we're an Australian publicly listed pharmaceutical company working to improve the lives of patients with inflammatory diseases, including both kidney and respiratory disease. Our lead clinical asset, DMX-200, known as Kytovra in some territories, is currently in a phase 3 clinical trial as a treatment for focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, or FSGS, which is a rare type of kidney disease on the back of some very promising data from our phase 2 clinical trial in 2020 and our phase 3 clinical trial interim analysis announced in March 2024. During this webinar, I will walk you through the fourth licensing transaction announced today with our new partner, Amicus Therapeutics, as well as the Dimerix opportunity. As always, please note the presentation today does contain forward-looking statements that represent management's current views, and actual results may differ as a result of many factors, some of which are noted on this slide. Our lead clinical asset, DMX-200, is in phase 3 trials as a treatment for FSGS, for which there are no approved treatments anywhere in the world, and for which we have orphan drug designation in US, Europe, and UK, as well as the potential for breakthrough designation in some other territories. Orphan disease means it's considered a rare disease. As such, global regulatory agencies provide incentives to develop products for these indications. These incentives include higher pricing, guaranteed market exclusivity periods upon approval, as well as other regulatory benefits. DMX-200 is what we would consider a significantly de-risked late-stage development program in FSGS patients. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Dimerix has good validation for the asset, both technically and commercially. Technical validation in that the phase 3 is typically the last study before submitting for marketing approval. And being in a phase 3 study means that, 1, we have already demonstrated a strong safety profile, and 2, we've already collected encouraging efficacy data across both the phase 2 clinical trial as well as the first blinded interim analysis in our current phase 3 clinical trial. We have validated our asset commercially through 4 commercialisation agreements that collectively may bring in up to 1.4 billion Australian dollars in upfront and potential milestone payments, plus royalties on net sales. Furthermore, we've already conducted commercial manufacturing scale-up activities with our manufacturing sites being in the United States. As a reminder as to what is FSGS, it essentially means some sections of the kidney filtering units are scarred. FSGS attacks the kidney filtering units, causing inflammation and irreversible scarring of the kidneys. Those scarred sections spread across the kidney over time until there are not enough cells left to effectively filter the blood, leading to kidney failure that requires dialysis or transplantation. To help put our phase 3 clinical asset into perspective, I'd like to walk through the progression of FSGS. First, patients with FSGS typically present with high blood pressure. The kidney vessels work harder under this pressure, which causes inflammation. This ongoing and persistent inflammation causes sclerosis or scarring. As the cells become scarred, the cells die off, leading the kidney filtering units becoming leaky, allowing protein to spill into the urine, which is known as proteinuria. Upon kidney cell death, unlike other cells in the body, kidney cells cannot regenerate, and this is why kidney disease is progressive. Once it has gone down that hill, it cannot come back up. As a result, a negative cycle begins where there are now less kidney cells that have to work even harder, causing more pressure, causing more inflammation, causing more scarring and cell death. This cycle progresses quickly and ultimately leads to kidney failure when there are not enough cells to effectively filter the blood. Sadly, this disease affects both adults and children, with time to kidney failure typically within 5 to 8 years, leading to that dialysis or transplantation. Now, with no treatment specifically for FSGS, the current standard of care is a blood pressure medication. It's called an angiotensin receptor blocker, or an ARB, and this works to reduce pressure in the kidney vessels. Our drug, which is a small molecule oral capsule, works on the inflammatory pathway and aims to reduce inflammation and ultimately prevent scarring. Together, these two treatments create a synergistic benefit for the patient. This helps understand the design of our clinical trial, where all patients remain on the blood pressure medication throughout the study. This morning, we were absolutely delighted to announce the agreement with our new licensing partner, Amicus Therapeutics, for the United States of America. Looking at the key elements of this regional licensing deal for DMX-200 in all indications. In exchange for Amicus rights to commercialize DMX-200 in the US, Dimerix may receive up to 940 million Australian dollars in total across upfront and potential milestone payments. This comprises an upfront payment of 30 million US dollars, or approximately 48 million Australian dollars on signing, up to 75 million US dollars, or approximately 119 million Australian dollars in potential development milestones up to FDA approval, 35 million US dollars, or approximately 56 million Australian dollars on the first sale of DMX-200 in the United States, up to 410 million US dollars, or approximately 653 million Australian dollars in potential sales milestones, and up to 40 million US dollars, or approximately 64 million Australian dollars in potential milestones on indications other than FSGS. In addition, and upon regulatory approval, Dimerix is eligible to receive between the low teens and low 20% royalties on net sales of DMX-200 in the US. Importantly, Amicus will be responsible for all preparation, submission, and maintenance of the regulatory dossier in the US, as well as all sales and marketing activities. Dimerix will continue to fund and execute the Global Action 3 Phase 3 trial for DMX-200 in FSGS patients, other than in Japan, where our partner Fuso has that responsibility. Dimerix will retain all rights to DMX-200 outside of the Amicus, Fuso, Advance, and Tiber licensed territories. Amicus is a specialty rare disease company listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange and headquartered in the US, with a market cap of approximately 2.2 billion US dollars. Amicus has delivered continued revenue growth through 2024, with total revenue of 528 million US dollars for the 2024 year end, representing over 30% growth year over year. Amicus is firmly established as a unique biotechnology company with two growing rare disease medicines with long commercial runways, a leverageable global infrastructure, and the financial strength to continue to build their business. Amicus is in a great position to become one of the leading rare disease biotechnology companies, delivering great medicines for patients and creating great value for shareholder. And this makes Amicus the ideal commercial partner for Dimerix. This licensing transaction announced today combines strong strategic alignment across all facets of the businesses. Amicus has fully integrated regulatory, sales, reimbursement, and marketing teams, providing a strong strategic fit. They have expertise in regulatory approvals and commercial launch of rare disease products in the US, providing those synergistic capabilities alongside Dimerix. With these foundations, both Dimerix and Amicus share the goal of delivering transformational medicines to improve the lives of patients living with rare disease. This, in turn, represents a major step forwards in growth and strategy for both companies. Collectively, this puts us in a far stronger position to work towards bringing our exciting drug candidate to those FSGS patients who currently have limited treatment options. We are absolutely thrilled to be partnering with Amicus for the United States. I'd just like to take a moment to thank the outstanding Amicus team, who have been an absolute delight to work with as we navigated and negotiated the complexities of the agreement. And of course, a big thank you to our amazing team at Dimerix, who continue to work tirelessly towards bringing potentially transformative medicines to people living with FSGS globally. Today's announcement is the fourth licensing deal executed for DMX-200 in FSGS, which collectively are valued up to $1.5 billion Australian in total upfront and potential milestone fees, in addition to royalties on net sales. The first licensing deal was announced in October 2023 with Advanced Pharma for the European Economic Area, UK, Switzerland, Canada, Australia and New Zealand, under which Dimerix could receive up to 230 million Australian dollars in total across upfront and potential milestone payments, as well as royalties on net sales. The second licensing deal was announced in May 2024 with Taiba Rare for the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain and Iraq, under which Dimerix could receive up to 120 million Australian dollars in total across upfront and potential milestone payments, as well as royalties starting at 30% on net sales. The third licensing deal was announced in January 2025 with Fuso Pharmaceutical Industries for Japan, under which Dimerix could receive up to 107 million Australian dollars in total across upfront and potential milestone payments, in addition to royalties between 15 and 20% on net sales. With the addition of Amicus today, Dimerix now has 4 high-quality partners across multiple territories, providing strong support for Dimerix in advancing and commercializing DMX-200 as a potential new treatment for FSGS. Collectively, across all 4 licenses, Dimerix will have received over 60 million Australian dollars in upfront payments alone, providing strong commercial support for our potential new treatment in FSGS. Needless to say, Dimerix continues to receive a significant amount of partnering interest from pharma companies across those available territories outside the Amicus, Fuso, Taiba and Advanced Pharma territories. Significant potential value remains across those available territories, and we continue to pursue and progress those licensing opportunities, including in mainland China. As you know, and you've heard me say many times before, deals get done when they get done, and they could be announced at any time. Dimerix has spent many years working diligently to bring together and commercialize this asset, and I would like to recognize all staff, both past and present, who have all contributed in some way to get us to where we are today. You should all take a moment to congratulate yourselves on your contributions, however big or small. So now to our phase 3 clinical trial. Many of you will have seen this slide many times. The phase 3 study is a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study of the efficacy and safety of DMX-200 in patients with FSGS who are receiving a stable dose of the blood pressure medication called an angiotensin receptor blocker, or ARB. While the full study will follow 286 patients across 2 years, there are 2 blinded interim analyses built in. You will note that as part of our study design, both estimated glomerular filtration rate, which means kidney function, and proteinuria data are being collected for a total of 2 years, which is particularly important given our recent interactions with FDA, which I will touch on shortly. In March 2024, we announced that the ACTION3 phase 3 trial of DMX-200 in patients with FSGS was successful in the first planned interim analysis of proteinuria efficacy endpoint from the trial's first 72 patients. Using a statistical model, the blinded analysis at the time indicated that DMX-200 was performing better than placebo in terms of reducing proteinuria, which is a surrogate marker of kidney disease progression. Passing this first interim analysis in the company's phase 3 trial was important, as it suggested that it was possible DMX-200 may achieve a statistically significant and clinically meaningful result at the end of the study. As such, the result is very encouraging, especially for those FSGS patients who currently have very limited treatment options. This analysis was also significant for Dimerix, and we believe it added tremendous value to the DMX-200 opportunity, as it was based on a much larger cohort than the prior DMX-200 clinical study, phase 2. The potential for accelerated or conditional approval submission follows the second interim analysis, and any required unblinding will be assessed following discussions with the regulatory authorities such as FDA in the US. As of this week, we've randomized and dosed 185 patients into the trial, and we anticipate full recruitment of the 286 patients for the 2-year Action 3 endpoint by the end of 2025 calendar year, subject to recruitment rates. We've also seen a number of patients complete the full 2-year study and roll over into the open label extension trial. To date, we have 42 patients enrolled in the open label extension trial. You will have seen that on Monday this week, we announced the outcome from our productive Type C meeting with the FDA held in March 2025. We were delighted to confirm the FDA's acceptance of proteinuria as an appropriate primary endpoint for full marketing approval in the United States for Dimerix 200 in FSGS. Even more exciting was that we could potentially use either the proportion of patients achieving a defined proteinuria reduction compared to the placebo arm, for example, 0.7 gram per gram protein in the urine, or the percent change in proteinuria from baseline, along with a justification for what constitutes a meaningful difference between treatment arms. This was particularly important given Dimerix 200 has previously demonstrated positive effects on the percent change proteinuria endpoint in both our preclinical and our clinical studies. Dimerix is working with the Parasol Working Group to generate additional data of existing Parasol data to further assess what may represent an appropriate and meaningful endpoint for accelerated approval in FSGS. The feedback and collaborative discussions we've had with the FDA reflect a very positive and constructive interaction for us. The Type C meeting and the timely issuance of minutes further confirms the drive by both Dimerix and the Division of Cardiology and Nephrology at the FDA towards the goal of bringing potential new treatments for patients with FSGS. Touching on our current funding position, at the end of March 2025 quarter, we had a cash position of $17 million. Note that this does not include the 4.1 million Australian dollar milestone payment from the Fuso licensing agreement anticipated this quarter, or the up to 6.3 million Australian dollars from the outstanding DXB options expiring in June 2025. As a result of the licensing agreement announced today, we will receive approximately 48 million Australian dollars in upfront payment from Amicus in the coming days. As you can see, this means we remain in a strong cash position to continue to fund our Dimerix 200 phase 3 development program, as well as now turn our attention to our development pipeline and other opportunities. Bringing us right back to the beginning, Dimerix is well positioned to continue to deliver on this late-stage asset, with 4 strong commercial partners to support our journey as we progress towards our potential marketing opportunity. The deal announced today is likely to be one of the largest licensing deals in the history of Australian biotech. With 4 commercial deals totaling approximately 1.4 billion Australian dollars in upfront and potential development and sales milestones, in addition to royalties on potential future sales, Dimerix is in a strong position to continue to grow our business and our pipeline to develop much-needed treatments for patients in need. It really is worth reminding ourselves that we are all invested in a company which is at the forefront of developing a potential new treatment for this rare type of kidney disease. At this time, there are no drugs specifically approved for FSGS anywhere in the world, so patients with FSGS today face poor outcomes with limited medical options. If successful, our drug candidate could make a huge difference globally to patients with this progressive and serious illness. And given we have orphan drug designation, a potential fast track to commercialization is available, highlighting the compelling nature of this trial for the company. I wish to acknowledge the FSGS patients and their families who continue to inspire us, our investigators, partners, and collaborators who provide invaluable assistance to our product development efforts. As you can imagine, it's an extremely busy time within Dimerix at the moment, and I'm genuinely excited about what 2025 and beyond may bring for Dimerix and our partners. I am very much looking forward to providing updates to the market in due course.